have to say that I'm new to this topic of human rights in Ethiopia. And this particular meeting, because of the request from Third World Solidarity, Mushtaq Lasharie, and Mr. Kefale, who asked me to book this room. And when I knew Amnesty International is going to be here, then I thought that it is important that I should book the room. So I am committed to human rights. Not only the fact that 1966 Human Rights Convention, the Covenant for the International Community of the UN, which was signed by almost all the countries that we all respect. But more importantly, human rights is the basic principle that as human beings, as Democrats, we believe and we support. And so if there are any abuses of human rights, then we need to make representation and, of course, fight for the rights of those who are oppressed and whose rights have been abused. So I'm just here to learn. I'm going to symbolically chair this meeting. I'm really here to learn. And so I'm going to ask my friend Kefale to open the meeting, and then we will ask Mushtaq Lasharie to speak.
Thank you very much, Lord Nazir. Thank you so much. I think let me go straight for my little note, which I prepared for you. Good evening. Today's meeting is a continuation of the last 4 meetings, and our presenters will brief us on the current alarming situation of Ethiopia, emphasizing on the shocking human rights violations in the country. Ethiopia is the second most populated country in Africa and has a strategic position in the continent with an abundant natural resources. Unfortunately, because of the ethnic-based maladministration and injustice, the current situation of the country is disappointing. In 1991, when the previous military regime abandoned the country without a responsible body at national level, the minority separatist rebel organization that calls itself TPLF used that opportunity, grabbed power, and betrayed Ethiopia. Since then, the pseudo-Marxist Leninist organization has been confusing not only the people of Ethiopia, but also the international community. The alarming environmental degradation and the attack against the country's values has compromised the interest of the present as well as the future generations. The crimes against humanity, the injustice, the marginalization of major as well as the minor ethnic groups are the causes of the current volatile and alarming situation in Ethiopia. Ethnic-based politics is backward and inhuman thinking, which is endangering the security and future integration of the international community. Ethiopian descents of the British citizens in the UK, Amnesty International, Third World Solidarity, Human Rights Watch, and other humanitarian organizations have been warning the danger of ethnic politics by forecasting destabilization and uncontrollable human rights disaster, not only in Ethiopia, but also across East and the rest of Africa. However, TPLF continues its arrogance and lawlessness and sustained its suppression by neglecting the advice of the international community and the voice of the Ethiopian people. In 2017, the regime declared the state of emergency to liquidate the people's resistance and committed further shocking crimes in the Amhara and Oromo areas. The people of Ethiopia do not trust TPLF, and it is an isolated minority regime that dictates the people using its military, militia, the ministries, and the security organs of the country, which are directly financed by taxpayer citizens and the aid money that flows from the international donors. In the May 2005 historic election, TPLF has been rejected by the Ethiopian people and is an illegitimate government that is staying in power by using force, intimidation, and arbitrary killings. This has confirmed by Ms. Anna Maria Gomez, who had led the European observation mission to Ethiopia and further exposed by London Ethiopians' subsequent meeting in the same wonderful building. Therefore, Ethiopia has the right to defend themselves and their territorial integrity using legal and peaceful means. The people of Ethiopia will not sit down and watch when their values, security, and the future of their country are destroyed. After committing shocking crimes against the Afars, the Amharas, the Ermias, the Oromos, the Somalis, and the southern people, Ethiopian people, recently the incumbent instigated a new conflict between the Oromo and the Somali ethnic groups. As a result of this conflict, thousands of innocent people perished, and hundreds of thousands have been displaced. It is very important to underline that TPLF will be responsible for all forms of terrorism and human rights violations in the area. I want to take this opportunity to ask the British government and the peace-loving international community to collaborate with the victims of the Ethiopian people and to stop the human suffering and to bring all crime perpetrators to the International Criminal Court, or to facilitate the inquiry process inside the country for the crimes they committed against humanity. These measures will not only stop the human suffering in the area, but also will keep Ethiopia's good traditional relationships intact with all countries, and beyond this, it will help us to sustain common interests and security at global level. Currently, the people are defending themselves from the minority lawless regime. We are witnessing that TPLF is losing ground and incapable to intimidate and silence the people of Ethiopia as it did previously. Because of the sustained unrest in Amhara, Oromo, and other parts of Ethiopia, the regime is at the verge of collapse, i.e., the incumbent is no more capable of to keep law and order in its own territory, leave alone to be an ally to fight terrorism at the international level. As it is well known by FBI and by the International Criminal Court, TPLF is a terrorist organization, and hence it does not make sense to keep this criminal inferior group as an ally against terrorism. After waging a senseless war with Ethiopia's previous province, Eritrea, TPLF is once again trying to complicate the issue of River Nile. Currently, it is trying to agitate and drag the Ethiopian people to another useless war. Ethiopians believe that any warmongering during TPLF era is not for the benefit of Ethiopia, but for the regime's evil survival. The empty rhetoric and the two-digit fast development propaganda is another blatant deceit, not only against the people of Ethiopia, but also against the international community. The whole world knows that there is a hidden famine in Ethiopia. According to the Washington Post, the Ethiopian regime acknowledged that 7.7 million people are facing severe hunger in this 2017. On the other hand, a report released by the Global Financial Intelligence revealed that 26 billion US dollar left the country unlawfully only between 2004 and 2013. And this poor country continuing to bleed an average of 2 billion every year. The recent imprisonment of the Ethio-Saudi billionaire in Saudi Arabia may also indicate the extent of corruption and the money laundering in the country. On behalf of the Ethiopian people, I thank the British government and the all-party parliamentary on third world solidarity. It is my greatest pleasure to thank Lord Nazir Ahmed for sponsoring this important meeting and for supporting the Ethiopian people. I thank CBE Mushtaq Lasharie and all executive members of the Third World Solidarity for their unlimited support. I would like to thank Ms. Patricia Bartley of the Amnesty International UK and all unmentioned friends of. I want to thank you all for giving your valuable time and for attending this very important humanitarian meeting. We are united and will continue to foil the divisive propaganda of TPLF. We are confident that the Ethiopian people ultimately shall win, and peace, justice, stability, and development will be realized. Thank you very much.
My friend Kefale, I must confess that I had no idea that there were such human rights abuses and the ethnic-based politics that was dividing the country. All I know is from my previous questions in relation to Department for International Development, money granted to Sudan and Ethiopia and other African countries, that Ethiopia was the recipient of the largest human rights situations. So without a further ado, I'm going to ask now Sister Juweria Ali to talk about human rights in Ethiopia.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the opening speech. I thought that was very enlightening and it touched on a lot of different issues concerning human rights in Ethiopia. So amidst ongoing conflict in Ethiopia, a recent crisis is adding to the pain and suffering of ordinary people. Members of the EU security forces
Yes, the song is okay.
So members of the EU security forces have been utilized to carry out attacks, at times masquerading as civilians, resulting in conflict between various ethnic groups, particularly ethnic Somalis from the Rotherham region and people in Oromia, as well as between other ethnic groups. The border between Oromia and the Rotherham region is the longest in the history and has been the subject of increasing tensions over the years, tensions that have made it possible to fuel conflict between the two groups. The Leopold, a paramilitary group that has systematically carried out grave atrocities against civilians in the Sudan, such as extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrests, rape and torture within the Oromia region for years, were sent onto neighboring Oromia towns dressed as civilians in order to attack Oromo people, resulting in the death of civilians.
Can you all hear?
Yes.
As we're aware, the Leopold take their orders from the Ethiopian military in the Abyei region, and the regional president, Mohammed Omar, controls the military. What followed then was a retaliation by armed Oromos and ethnic Somalis and those most vulnerable to such retaliation are the ethnic Somalis living in Oromo regions, who remain under constant threat. Displacement is another huge problem born out of these clashes. According to BBC, at least 55,000 people have been displaced, some of whom have taken refuge in makeshift camps. People are reportedly trying to escape the violence by fleeing to the Kenyan side of the southern border, town of Juweria Ali, which also has a history of Oromo-Somali conflict. And according to sources on the ground, Somalis are unable to travel between Juweria and Rotherham out of fear of retaliation. According to The Economist, in the area around her, nearly 70,000 have sought shelter just east of the city, and 30,000 more are huddling in a makeshift camp in the west. This includes both Oromos and Somalis affected by the ethnic clashes. The government is accused of fueling ethnic conflict in order to foster mistrust and a strong sense of division following recent protests which call for greater democratic reform. Now we find that the OPDO, in retaliation against the are targeting and attacking the most vulnerable civilians. It is ironic that the TPLF leadership want to hold Abdi Mohammed Omar accountable for committing human rights violations when they are the same people who put him in power to do exactly that, commit human rights violations against its own people. It is always civilians that suffer in situations such as this, and long-standing issues faced by Somalis and others are further exacerbated by this conflict. The region is just recovering from one of the worst famines ever experienced and a cholera epidemic which claimed the lives of tens of thousands of people. Moreover, the current issue of displacement is happening on top of existing massive displacement among the local community. It is recorded that the populations of entire villages are routinely displaced forcibly by government forces. This includes villages which are at times completely burned to the ground. Lucky civilians are given extremely short time frames to evacuate under the threat of violence, including rape and executions. The region is often described as the most deprived region in Ethiopia, particularly in terms of access to basic public services. For instance, there is hardly any access to the increasingly limited healthcare facilities, and civilians must therefore experience fatality from increasingly preventable illnesses. The systemic violence against Somalis in Ethiopia is state-sponsored. Historically, oppressive governments have focused on attacking the most vulnerable members of society in order to deter that society in question from seeking their rights. But as always, it is civilians that pay the price for whatever power gains there are at play. Unsurprisingly, the Prime Minister has blamed the regional administrations for the conflict, stating that the problems have no relation to ethnic conflicts. It is our lower political leadership that commands these actions, and these bodies, he claims, are acting completely independently of their federal leaders. Most people believe that the EPRDF initiated the violence to weaken our own resistance to the central government. Resistance to the EPRDF is not limited to the Oromos. The majority of the population wants urgent change. People want open and fair democratic elections to be held in which all parties can take part, for the freedom of political prisoners, for human rights to be respected, and for the constitution drafted by the EPRDF to be adhered to, and the democratic principles laid out in the country's constitution. In addition to huge demonstrations that would have otherwise been unheard of years ago, a number of high-level regime resignations have taken place. This speaks to the future uncertainty of the current politics within Ethiopia. If we take anything away from this, it should be to deeply and meaningfully understand the lengths that the government is willing to go in order to preserve its grip on power and deny the people of the country their rights. This is what should be repeatedly highlighted, that it is the government that is instigating and fueling ethnic conflict, which is the real cause behind the issues that we're seeing today. Acknowledging this and unifying against the oppressive government and its divisive agenda is the only viable solution.
Thank you very much for your good speech and also wonderful point of view. I'm going to now ask Alderman Mushtaq Lasharie, Chairman of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Federal Solidarity, to speak. CBE, at least.
My Lord, Patricia, friends, good evening. I'm very thankful to Kefale and Juweria for giving us the insight of Ethiopia. As Lord Ahmed of Rotherham has already said, we are busy people. I'm just coming from Europe. I was in Brussels yesterday, and they were discussing the Rohingya situation. Have you heard about it? Over 1 million people have been displaced in Burma, and now they are living in Bangladesh in a very limited area. Lord Ahmed have already visited them. But there was a meeting yesterday based on BBC and Sky TV documentaries which are plight of those. And I was really crying during that period because I can see a 1-day-old child in the lap of a mother who has not eaten for the last 1 month. So that's how it is a situation. I think it is an irony that on one side, as you all, and I know many of friends are sitting here, you will be speaking later on. I think it is an irony, Lord Ahmed Sahib, that we today, and Patricia especially, that we have Amnesty International, we have DFID, we have Foreign Office, we have Britain, and we have all those resources. But at the time when in Hague, people are punished for their genocide and killing of innocent civilians, at the same time that killing is happening, whether it is in Ethiopia, in Rohingya, in Kashmir. Actually today, I was supposed to be in a conference on Kashmir in European Parliament because I have requested you, and I'm really thankful to you that you have organized this, and I can assure you, tomorrow you will be connected by Ethiopian ambassador because he is very active to neutralize the voices of the difference in United Kingdom, because I remember this is our 5th meeting, as Kefale said, under the Third World Solidarity, and they have contacted us many times, including David Nelson. And actually, one of the ministers was sacked because he raised human rights issues, British minister of Liberal Democrat, because he went to Ethiopia after meeting us, I think 1 week before his travel, and he went and he raised the human rights issues, Juweria, of atrocities happening to different communities in Ethiopia. And I think I can see Mustafa sitting here who are also a victim. Muslims are also victims at the borders. Although we treat Ethiopia as a country, and I think we should not treat people as on the religious or ethnic base, but they are human beings. And when human beings are killed, it is our duty to raise our voices. And I'm really thankful to many members and supporters of Third World Solidarity. You can see among you there are some Pakistanis sitting, some Kashmiris sitting. And I think we have to link and connect with other communities to raise this collective voice against the atrocities happening in the world today. And I'm really thankful to all my parliamentarians who have supported for the last 5 meetings. And actually I spoke yesterday. I couldn't meet Anna Gomez, I wanted to meet her, and she was available today. But I couldn't stay in Parliament and raise your issues there because European Parliament is very important. As you have mentioned already, Kefale and Juweria yourself, that Britain is one of the largest donors to Ethiopian government, which is creating these difficulties for their own people. And actually while Burmese and Myanmar government is killing their own citizens, the Britain was continued with the support, and Foreign Office simply refused to listen to the people that these weapons which you are providing to the military of Myanmar, they are used against their own people. But once that documentary which I saw yesterday was aired on by a brave journalist, and she put herself in a danger while she traveled in the same route at the night time on those boats which were built by the human beings without any safety precautions. And she crossed and then she traveled to those areas and met these families. I think these sort of journalists are needed. And I know that Patricia would like it, but let me say that the work of the Amnesty International in these sort of countries where they are banned, you can't travel. Amnesty International Human Rights is not allowed to go to either occupied Kashmir or occupied Palestinian areas and Ethiopian area, but they are still working and raising the voices. And we had a meeting last year, if you remember, most of you were there in Amnesty International headquarters, and they were very kind to host it, Lord Saab. So we are working with these sort of people in the Western world, and we have many friends. David Anderson was one of them. You have found today another friend who will raise your issues in House of Lords, ask questions. But it is you and us who have to pursue these people because they are very busy people. They have got hundreds of things on their plates, and I think it is third world solidarity duty that we work for peace, justice, tolerance, and democracy in the world. But not only democracy, which is being done on the point of gun and ask people to vote for us or excluded, because Anna Gomez, if you remember, in this building in the Rotherham spoke how they rigged elections in Ethiopia. And she said there is no use of Western countries sending their monitors because they don't listen to us. They don't allow us to have free and fair access how the elections are held. So let's keep on our pressure. I'm very thankful to everybody who's here for coming and attending this. Let's keep our pressure. Let's unite. Bring more people into it because there is a huge population of Ethiopians living in London, in Bristol, in many areas around them. If you all raise your questions, and I know that the government, what they are doing is, they arrested a British citizen, Jeremy Corbyn's constituent, and they have kept him for years in the prison in isolation, and his family lives here. His wife and children are young British, and they are campaigning for his release. So let's carry on our pressure. Let's keep on working on these issues of human rights and fair and free election in Ethiopia. I'm with you, whatever you want me for it, and I've got many friends like Lord Ahmed and Patricia, and we will keep on working on it. Thank you very much, Lord Sir, once again, and thank you for attending.
Thank you, Lasharie sir. I have to confess that Abyssinia was, for me, 1400 years ago when the Prophet, peace be upon him, asked his companions to go because the king was so kind that he would not persecute them but also give them a refuge. So to hear that on the border and the abuses of human rights and how people have been targeted ethnically based, it's no. Without further ado, can I ask Wondimu Mekonnen to speak about, you are there, I know, to speak about
Ethiopia briefly. Almost many of you know what is going on. My colleagues have already talked about it. And so, due to the erroneous politics of the ruling regime, Ethiopia is on the verge of collapse. Well, we can say that one with certainty. It's not just me who said that. There is an organization called Freedom House who has already predicted that due to what is going on within that country. I will just go over 3 crises that would lead you to conclude whether what I have just said or what the thank you. So these 3 crises, when they come together, they topple government. And I hope you agree with me. And the first crisis is the social crisis. Crisis between, within the social itself. I'm running what is known as pest analysis, political, economical, social. The other T is technological, which has nothing to do. So social crisis and economic crisis and political crisis, all the 3 are there in Ethiopia. All the 3. Social crisis. You see, the Tigray Liberation Front, TPLF, which my colleague here, Kefale, was talking about, has torn down the social fabric that tied Ethiopia together, Ethiopian ethnic groups together, not just for 100 years or so, for 1,000 years. We always, we were different ethnically or linguistically, but we are always tied together, intermarried. And the chairman was talking about religion, about Muslims and Christians living together in harmony for years and years. And that has been torn down by the ethnic politics of the TPLF. Ethiopia, as you know, and as a state existed before, I can boast about that, before some of these big European nations existed into existence. It's been there always. The Aksum monolithic, statues will tell you that. The Lalibela, rock-hewn churches tell you that. We've been there for years and years. Of course, we are reduced now, and we are smaller and smaller, but not yet wiped out of the face of the earth. We are still there. So, it existed for centuries. After thousands of years of history, save the 5 years of the Italian occupation, okay? The TPLF that came to power decided to divide the country into ethnic enclaves like just that of South Africa. The only difference is it is an apartheid, black on black. This ethnic division led into some sort of misunderstanding, misconception, and disagreement between ethnic groups. For example, some of my parents are from the north. I was born in the southeast, in the Ilubabor region, and that is predominantly Ilubabor is made up of the Shekachos, the Oromos, the Amharas, the Majangar, and the other people, the Gambela, Nuer, Anua. This is a combination of people. And now, people started fighting against them. Go to your ethnic enclave. That had never been there before. I was born in Ilubabor, and that is where my place is. How can these things happen now? It's because of the erroneous politics of the TPLF. So,
affairs of Ethiopia has been addressed by my colleagues, and currently we're seeing unprecedented public disobedience and uprising in all parts of the country, and people are demanding freedom, respect of their civic and democratic rights, and the experiment that was put together in this same city 26 years ago in 1991 is unraveling. And the failure of ethnic division, ethnic politics, ethnic federalism is here to be witnessed by everyone. We haven't seen the full fallout of the divide and rule politics of TPLF yet, but the damage of identity politics based on language and ethnic, dividing people, as has been mentioned, people who lived side by side for centuries, if not for millennia. I just want to focus on the role of the international community, specifically the US and the United Kingdom, who increasingly were witnessing their failed foreign policy, specifically in Middle East and North Africa. So I think probably Ethiopia will be online next in terms of, as my colleague said, predicted to be a failed state by the Freedom House and the International Crisis Group. And partly because the Western foreign policy, which is misguided, looking at allies for the war against terrorism and pouring billions. America is giving 1 billion, and Ethiopia is one of the, I think, if not the top, the second largest recipient of defeat money. But this money is going where? It's going into the Ogaden region, to train the police to kill innocent civilians. And this has been documented by Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and all independent human rights organizations. This is well known. The State Department report itself, the American report, is clearly stating, and year after year, this is 26 years and going. So, I think we are demanding in terms of UK reviewing its foreign policy, and also we can't say don't give aid because there are people starving, and humanitarian aid should be given. I mean, it would be unethical to say not to give money, but there should be openness, transparency, and accountability. Where is this money going? And in terms of, they are using it for repressive purposes. They are giving money, even handouts are given to their own supporters. If people are, deemed to be opposition members, they are denied this foreign aid. So we demand for the release of political prisoners and prisoners of conscience. Hundreds and thousands of prisoners are languishing for decades in not only in known prisons but unknown prisons, really. But I, particularly in the name of the Ethiopian community, I would like to ask through Lord Ahmed and Mr. Lasharie, we would like to register our concern that the country is descending into chaos, and what is coming is unpredictable, really. It could be another, my colleague said, we're going to see another Libya, maybe another Yemen, or one of the countries, Syria, that has been destroyed, with all good intention, with all willingness of the West try to make things better, but we all know that they have actually made things worse. That's what they're doing in Ethiopia as well. Of course, first and foremost, the responsibility lies on the Ethiopian people. But I think the West is really making it difficult for people to even stand up and demand their right. So, really, as you said, if the question could be raised in the House, it would be really great. And particularly in terms of the corruption, it's well documented that the growth that has been mentioned is only, you can't even put it in 1%. It is insignificant, 0.00. I don't know how many percent of the population have benefited. A few people have benefited. A few roads, a few buildings have been built. But if we look at Ethiopia, is now 100 million. The population 100 million. So the vast majority of people are starving, food handouts, and all this money and all this foreign aid is going into the pockets of the tyrants and dictators. And we just would like to raise this again. We have spoken, this is the fifth time, as Mr. Lasharie said, but once again, we would like to reiterate and even stress that. Unless something is done, unless a policy review is done, the Foreign Office defeat, I think we will be witnessing, it would be really too late, to after a year or two, to say, things have gone out of hand. And if Ethiopia is destabilized, if you look at Horn of Africa, the whole country, neighboring countries, Somalia, Kenya, Djibouti, Sudan, is around this big country, 100 million, and if Ethiopia is destabilized, the whole Horn of Africa, East Africa will be destabilized, which also, the consequences will also be affected, the whole country, including Great Britain. So we would like to register our concern and also to highlight the warning that's looming, which Ethiopia is at a crossroad, and what is coming is unpredictable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just one announcement, please don't take any photos.
Be an ambassador so he knows that we are here. And I'm with you. So, Patricia, do you want to speak now?
If I could.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Lord Ahmed, and Mushtaq and Kefale, and lovely to see so many familiar faces. For those that don't know me, I do work at Amnesty. My main job is at the Centre for Human Rights, thank you, at the University of York. But within Amnesty International, I'm the UK coordinator for the Eastern Horn of Africa, with special responsibility for Ethiopia and Kenya. So, and I lived in Ethiopia for a few years. It is a country that's very dear to my heart. Just to explain a little bit about my role this evening, I said I didn't want to speak because I'm not a country expert. Our research is based in Nairobi. I came here mainly to listen and to hear from other people. But what it is of great interest to me is that we act. You know, Amnesty is a group of action. So whereas it's great to share stories and learn from each other, you know, we've got to do more than just share the stories. And I suppose this is a little bit my role this evening. So, just to be clear, Amnesty would never call for the overthrow of a government. It's beyond anything we would ever call for. We call for the respect, promotion of human rights, whatever that may be. Sometimes we work on thematic things like stop torture and death penalty, and we also work on particular cases. So in Ethiopia there are two prisoners we work on, Iskender Nega, the journalist, and Kefale Alemu, the politician. So they are kind of like representative of so many other people that have been imprisoned, as you know. Amnesty has got a very traditional way of working, which is often writing to people in authority, raising cases, writing to MPs, MEPs, embassies, presidents, ministers of justice. And that works sometimes and works a little bit. It's fantastic when we get questions raised in particular governments because that highlights the cases even more so, and certainly the case of Ahmed, a lot of MPs have raised questions, and that's been great. Amnesty also has this reputation for producing high quality research, and as has been said, the researchers are no longer allowed inside Amnesty. Amnesty will not go in undercover. It's a very open organisation. But what they're finding more and more difficult is that people are more and more frightened to speak, be that by phone, email, because of the monitoring systems. So when people often ask why is Amnesty producing more reports or information, it's often because they just haven't got it, or it's difficult to vouch for. So what I was hoping for is maybe the people that have spoken this evening from text, I can email those speeches to Nairobi and they can contact you directly. One of the things I think is really important, not just within our own government, but also, European level, we need to push for Ethiopia to open its doors to UN independent investigators. This is a country that has signed every international human rights treaty. They really cannot object to independent United Nations people going in, and to be able to speak to people freely without fear of them being arrested afterwards. And I think that is maybe not the weakest, but the weakest, the strongest. If you use, rather than a particular government, the United Nations as an independent body, it's quite a good way to shame the government. That's the idea. So yes, I'm looking for creative and new ways to raise awareness and to lobby. I think more and more groups are using videos, films, songs. Hip hop seems to reach a very wide audience. We've worked a lot with the Black Lives Matters and issues in the United States. So if any of you know people, that can raise the issues you've raised today, but in other ways, that would be great. We can share them. And the other thing is, the BBC World Service has started broadcasting in 3 other languages: Tigrinya, Amharic, and Oromo. I'm not sure how that's going, but obviously that's another platform for people to make their voices heard inside the country. So I suggest contacting the BBC. And yes, there's an urgent need for democratic change in Ethiopia, and yeah, democracies are not born overnight. It's a very long process. Even old democracies like the UK struggle at times, and I think we've all got to be very patient with each other, as well as, you know, the government's not going to suddenly become perfect if it leaves and a new government comes in. For me, you know, it's great you mentioned the photograph, because to me, for the authorities to see a united diaspora is a very threatening and a very strong image. And I imagine for the Ethiopian government, the contact we've had with the embassy in London gets very, very nervous when we stand outside. They close the curtains, they don't let the ambassador out. So, you know, any sort of publicity that makes them a little bit twitchy works, I think, you know. And it's interesting, I was at a meeting a while back on Eritrea. The embassy had actually sent Eritrean embassy staff. We've never had, as far as I know, any Ethiopian embassy staff, so maybe it's good for them to know that we're here. And that's really it. So if you've got any ideas and questions on how we can raise awareness and work together, because I feel we need to take the lead. The government can do what it can, but I think we're on the right to go. Thank you.
So, Patricia, I'm going to look at these two regimes, the last 2 years.
But I am disappointed that what Amnesty International said in Ethiopia, which is I born in Bahar. Last year, 72 people on the demonstration was killed, all of them over the chest, shoot to kill, as the government did. So, you know, even look, which is everyone knows.
But I want to ask you, it's easy for people to come and criticize others, but tell me how many of you have been in contact with your MPs in relation to this? Put your hands up. Be honest.
Most of our
Okay. Thank you. But not all of you. But even then, how many of you have actually asked your MP first to table early day motion in Parliament, or second, write to the Foreign Secretary in relation to what's happening, third, on the day when there is a foreign debate, for them to raise these questions? If that's been done, then I'm surprised I've not heard it, but that's probably not been done. Sir, yours.
The question the speakers, almost all of them have mentioned silence of the Western government and support to the current Ethiopian regime. And do you think it is because the Ethiopian regime has acted as a proxy to serve particularly the US interest in Horn of Africa?
I think you're right here. I think both questions, we do see double standard in the Western politics. The foreign policy is mainly dictated by national interest. You know, when Labour was in a government, I think at some point they were saying ethical foreign policies. They have abandoned it now. Human rights have no place. They really, I mean, it's a lip service, really. Human in the committees in this house, really, it is really at the bottom. So initially, it's more national interest. So, I mean, just because they are serving, as you said, America's interest, specifically because they have troops in Somalia fighting their dirty wars, that's partly why they are propped up. This government wouldn't have really survived 6 months if UK and US wouldn't have really given billions, and they're actually the sponsor of, indirectly they are actually responsible. History will judge them that for all these atrocities and for all these human rights abuses, although the government, the regime will be responsible, but the UK and America will also, history will judge them, and that they will be responsible as well.
Dr. Zulkarson, thank you very much for asking this question. I want to respond as well, Mr. Chairman. I think I did a meeting. It was not on Ethiopia, but we did a meeting under human rights, APPG, Larbotic chaired it. And we invited no politician, but civil servants from Foreign Office and different. Two came, and we asked them direct questions that in Britain, historically, human rights was one of the top agenda for many, many decades. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, any organization which you will call upon which is working on human rights was basically initiated from London or the United Kingdom. Even the United Nations main Human Rights Commission always had headquarters in Geneva and in London. So we asked them specifically, what is the reason that now human rights is dropped from top priority to third, fourth, fifth? And they were very honest. They came back and they said, because today security has taken over the agenda of human rights. Ethiopia is in a region where most of the countries around it are going through a difficult time. And they believe and feel that that is the only country, and I think you raised as well, three of you, that if Ethiopia goes in raid, it will be not only Africa, but whole of the world will come in a difficulty because it is a huge country. Historically, it was one of the most stable countries for centuries. So I think it is, your question basically is, the response to your question is, yes, it is true. That we have to do it. Yes, okay.